This morning, Wargaming announced that they are going to be rebalancing 4 Tier 10s in World of Tanks, and I cannot be happier about 2 of the specific vehicles that are going to be getting changed. In today's video, I'm going to be letting you know all the changes. I'm going to be talking about why I'm happy about some of them more than others, and let me know in the comments down below what you guys think. So let's take a look at what is exactly happening. First of all, I should mention that this is in the Super Test, so the changes that Wargaming is showcasing here could be subject to change. Most likely, and this is usually the case for a lot of vehicles in Super Test, is that there might be some tweaks here and there, but what the general idea of the balancing changes for these vehicles are is probably what's going to actually end up happening to these tanks. 90% of what ends up going into Super Test actually ends up going into the game. So first of all, we have the Panzer Kogen 7. This is a Tier 10 German tech tree heavy, and they're going to give it better accuracy and aiming time, and better penetration values both for the standard and premium shells. We're also removing weak spots on the mantlet, aligning it with the VK7201K, which is the clan reward variant. VK72 is kind of an insane vehicle. It has 350 mils of heat pen, which is a little ridiculous for what it is. So that's the first thing. We have the Panzer Kogen 7. We can see the changes right here. The dispersion at 100 meters is getting slightly better. It's not huge, but still, that's quite a nice buff to make the gun feel more like a German heavy. The aiming time is getting better, going down to 2.3 seconds, and the average penetration is really good. 276 on the standard. Because this is an APCR firing vehicle, it's going to have really good pen on the premium as well, with 325 mils, and the HE, well, that's not going up, so that doesn't really matter. But the 18 standard pen, that's pretty huge, and it's going to allow this tank to cut through a lot more armor with standard ammo than it previously would have been able to. Also, an additional 150 horsepower is going to allow this tank to get in and out of situations a lot sooner. So yeah, I gotta be honest, that's a big buff in general for the Panzer Kogen 7. I don't really see this tank as too much of a dangerous vehicle, so I'm fine with it getting buffed. I'm glad that Wargaming is going to be giving it a lot more potential. Maybe I'll end up grinding it. We also have the AMX 50 Foch B, and we all know the Foch B is quite an insane vehicle. They are going to be changing the Foch B quite a bit. They're reducing its aiming time, decreasing dispersion after firing, and enhancing stabilization during movement and hull traverse. So its on-movement dispersion is getting better. Oh man, this is going to be nasty. Additionally, we're also going to boost its maximum reverse and specific power. Oh boy, that's going to be nasty. We can see here the changes that's going to be happening. Its reverse speed is going from 13 to 17. That alone is huge. This is an autoloader, which obviously does a massive amount of dumping damage. And the biggest downside of this vehicle is getting out of situations you've put yourself in. But now, with that buff, especially if you pair it with possibly running a turbo, I mean, you can reverse at 22. That's going to be a little insane. Its horsepower to ton got 4 better. That is ridiculously big on the mobility buffs. Its aiming time didn't really change too much. Its dispersion after firing, though, did. And that's going to be huge, because obviously as a super fast firing autoloader, that dispersion after firing is going to allow this tank to have much better shots on really any situation. And pairing that with the fact that it's getting better on movement dispersion and gun traverse, man, this tank might be the next king of Tier 10. We're gonna have to find out, but this is not gonna be a fun tank to fight when they're rolling at you with a 22 horsepower to ton, nuking you for 2,000 HP, and then backing in the cover before you can even do anything about it. We'll have to find out, but this is always going to be a tricky tank to balance because of the fact that it's such a dangerous vehicle. If you give it too much, it's going to be insane, and if you give it too little, it's going to be bad. I think the current state of the Foch B is pretty good, so, oh boy, we'll find out, Let me know in the comments what you guys think about this tank. Now, there's also going to be changes to the Tier 9. They're going to be improving the reverse speed of the AMX 50 Foch, buffing the aiming time and dispersion after firing, and stabilization, just like the Tier 10. And as well, the AMX AC48, which is the Tier 8, will also be getting similar improvements within slightly enhanced accuracy. So it seems like the whole line is just getting big buffs. If you have been tempted to grind for the Foch, if these do get added into the game, it's actually going to be great. We also have the Super Conqueror, and this is this and actually the Minnow are my 2 favorite changes by far. I have been waiting for Wargaming to nerf the Super Conk for a while now because it is just an incredibly cringe tank to fight. I actually find it harder to go up against Super Conks than I do Chieftain FE201s, 279Es. The tank's just cringe, and I'm really glad that it is finally getting a nerf. So let's see what Wargaming says. The Super Conqueror is among the most powerful Tier 10 heavy tanks available for research. Their numbers in battles is significant and can greatly influence the outcome of any battle. You know its strengths: tough turret, exceptional gun depression angles, and great DPM. It significantly influences the battlefield and operates well in any combat situation. As a result, the Super Conqueror boasts a high win rate in random battles and onslaught. We aim to temper its dominance without compromising its major strengths or playstyle. Super Conqueror will remain a top-performing vehicle, but won't determine the course of the battle as much as before. To achieve this, we'll slightly decrease its DPM, reload speed, and hit points. This heavy will still be able to showcase great results across the map. So let's see what they've done to this vehicle's overall capability. First of all, it went down 100 HP. That's not the end of the world. The DPM got a second knocked off, which means it's losing about 250 damage per minute. Honestly, I don't think this is enough of a nerf. People might agree, people might disagree with what I'm going to say, but I feel like the Super Conqueror is still going to be just as strong as before. I mean, sure, taking away a bit of the DPM is going to hurt the tank, but if you're running it fully equipped properly, it had previously about 3,600 damage per minute. So now it's going to have, what, 3,350, 3,300 DPM? That's still quite a bit. In my opinion, I would like to see maybe the turret armor get a little bit worse, or specifically the hatch get weaker. The Super Conqueror hatch is one of the most cringe in the game. The fact that it's incredibly resistant against AP and APCR, and it's really only heat at certain angles that are able to pen it. I personally would like to see the hatch get nerfed as well. That's all I really want, but I'm still glad that Wargaming is nerfing this vehicle. I find it incredibly cringe to fight, and yeah, I just think it's cringe that every tryhard drives the vehicle, so I'm glad that that's getting nerfed. Then we arrive at the Minotauro, and this is actually probably the most annoying tier 10 for me, and probably a lot of players to fight in the game. The Minnow has the highest average win rate in tier 10 for any player. It's that good of a performer. So let's read it. When the mighty Conqueror 3 Minotauro uses the terrain and exposes its cabin with the upper glacis plate, it becomes almost invulnerable. Yes, you are correct. This heavily armored tank destroyer has a reputation as a formidable opponent and can frustrate many commanders on the opposing team. Our goal is to create a situation where it still remains challenging for lower tier vehicles to penetrate its frontal armor. However, accurate aiming and higher penetration vehicles at tier 10 should provide a more balanced competition with this TD. To achieve this, we will reduce the armor on hatches and certain areas of the frontal protection to increase the chance of penetration. We'll also decrease the Minnow's HP and special heat shell. I mean, nobody cares about the shell velocity. That's not the biggest thing ever, but HP will obviously hurt it a bit. So let's take a look. Additionally, we'll increase its specific power and its traverse speed, and slightly adjust other characteristics. These changes will collectively make the Minnow more vulnerable while retaining its strengths. Alright, so let's see what they've done to the tank. First of all, frontal hatch armor went from 180 to 70. Its hit points went down 100 from 2,000 to 1, or from 2100 to 2000. Its dispersion on hull traverse got nerfed. Its dispersion on the move, though, got better, so it didn't really change there, I guess. That's not much of a change. Shell velocity went down 300 meters a second. Okay, that's actually a pretty big nerf. I mean, it's not going to be the end of the world. You just shoot heat at whatever's in front of you. It's not like you're shooting at too many mediums with this tank. You're more shooting at heavies. But the big things that will help it are the traverse speed, 6 degrees a second. That's quite a lot. And the engine power going up, the horsepower to ton ratio is also going to be quite nice for the vehicle. I'm just glad Wargaming is personally nerfing this tank. It's overpowered, and anybody that disagrees with that is wrong. This is what the Minnow looks like currently against 350 millimeters of heat hull down. Please tell me where you're supposed to pen the vehicle, because I'll wait. If you tell me I'm supposed to aim for this weak spot here, I don't know what to tell you. And by the way, that's still 330 mils thick. It is physically impossible to pen a Minnow hull down. It's broken beyond belief, and it needs to be nerfed. These hatches here should be weak. And I'm really hoping that when Wargaming nerfs the vehicle, these hatches haul down are going to be penetrable weak spots, because as of right now, that is not the case. And I think because of that, this is by far one of the dumbest tier 10s to fight in the game. It can single-handedly lock down a flank with having no weak spot whatsoever. It hits hard, it's just stupid. And if we take a look at the tier 9, it's just as busted. I mean, this is a tier 9 against a tier 10 heavy. Again, like, where are you supposed to pen it? It has no hatches. The only weak spot is this tiny little cutout right next to the gun mantlet. Even the gun mantlet itself is spaced armor, and it's a 50-50 whether you're going to pen or not. This tank is stupid. Even the tier 8 has ridiculously strong armor haul down. I mean, again, this is a tier 10 aiming at a tier 8. The turret's upwards of 380 thick. So I personally really hope, and I mean, look at this freaking gun depression. What is this? Like, what? Yeah, personally, I am praying that Wargaming nerfs the vehicle. I'm hoping that it gets nerfed to a point where you actually have the opportunity to pen it. I think the Minnow is one of the major vehicles that has made me unenjoy World of Tanks. It's just stupid. So let's see what else they're doing. The Conqueror 1 Mark II, the turret is relatively straightforward and lacks obvious weak spots. So instead of making its turret less armored, which would expose it to wide penetration, will weaken the armor of the hull's upper plate and increase the traverse speed? What? So they're not changing the turret on the tier 9. Why? The turret on the tier 9 Wargaming is stupid. Look at it. It has no hatches. These aren't hatches. They're dumb. That's spaced armor. You can see it here. That doesn't count as armor. The vehicle needs to be nerfed, in my opinion. Like, yes, on flat ground it's pretty weak, but haul down, the vehicle's already not that hard to pen haul down, and if you hide the turret, I just don't see, like, we can pull out this. What are you going to do to this vehicle when it's put in a position like this? I just don't get it. Especially if you're in a lower tier vehicle like a tier 8. I mean, seriously, what are you supposed to do against that? I mean, really, it needs to be nerfed, Wargaming. I agree with the decision of nerfing the Minnow. I seriously hope that they also nerf the turret armor of the tier 9. The SMV Conqueror 67, this vehicle is known for its tough turret armor. To preserve its gameplay hallmarks, will slightly reduce the armor of the lower hull plate, and this will decrease the number of ricochets and non-penetrations. Will also slightly increase dispersion during move. Yeah, I don't know. The tier 9 and 8 are still cringe, and they should also be nerfed, in my opinion, on the turret armor. I mean, the fact that this is what a tier 8 sees when they're aiming at it is really stupid and should not be the case. I just... No tank should have no weak spot. In my opinion, every vehicle should have some sort of weak spot while haul down. And sure, I mean, they'll nerf the upper plate, but that's not the problem. It's the turret armor. So let me know in the comments down below what you guys think. But I personally would like to see still the tier 9 and tier 8 nerfed quite a bit on their turret. But at least the tier 10, which is definitely the hardest to fight of a bunch, is getting nerfed. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think about these changes. Do you agree with what Wargaming is doing? Do you disagree? I mean, obviously the Super Conk spammers are going to disagree. The people that abuse the Minnow are going to disagree. But they are the two top performing vehicles in the game. And I really don't think there's much argument or room for argument. They're almost overpowered. The Minnow is overpowered, and I'm glad to see that at least Wargaming is taking some action. Hopefully you enjoyed today's video. If you'd like to see more like it, please consider smashing that subscribe button down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.